Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about the 30-minute delay. It's been a day. Good day, but a busy day. So, how do I sound?
Good audio and video.
All right. Okay, so hey, welcome again to another update. Lots to talk about. 18 items, as a matter of fact. We also will be having a weekend test. I don't know what day it is, but as of a few hours ago, we were all set. So when we know what day, I'll let you folks know. Yeah, maybe a somewhat short one because of the late start, but we'll see. So before we get to the 18, I also want to say that was another good week. You folks saw we did a lot of testing this week, a lot of playing with Rams, a lot of building destruction, and a lot of other good things, as well as Charlotte. Talked about her, in an update last week. And sorry, my voice is a little off because literally I have been talking almost nonstop for the last 5 hours. It started at a quarter after 11, 2-hour phone call, came into the office, went into meetings, finished 20 minutes ago, and now I'm here. So, yeah. So if my voice is a little scratchy, you'll know why. So let's go. Number 1, work in progress. Nav mesh. You keep hearing about it. You, I think, understand what and why it's important. Big thing yet again with this is Lee laying the infrastructure for much bigger things regarding NPCs, which is kind of important. Number 2, work in progress. Animated models. So Mike D added support for NPCs to use simple animated models that don't have the explicit needs of player characters. Why does that matter? Really simple. Because right now we just bring in NPCs essentially using player characters, and we don't want to do that for every bird, for every deer, for every Charlotte. So, yeah, good thing. Number 3, tech, character sizing. Hey, guess who again? Mike D. Also added the ability for us to change the size of a model based on its gender. And then, of course, we'll do that just because, with nothing to do with gender, allowing us to add more visual variation to characters or NPCs when needed. Obviously, hey, for those who play Dark Age of Camelot, you remember the thing we did with being able to size things up. Yeah, I'm sure we will do that again. Number 4, work in progress, tech item hit boxes. 3 in a row for this guy. Mike D is working on some fixes for our interaction hitboxes. This will improve the accuracy of players trying to interact with various things like doors and siege engines, blah, 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 blah. So yes, that's one of those, hey, more game-like things to make your experience while playing more fun. Certainly simpler. Number 5, work in progress, tech, game server optimization and introspection. Yeah, the game server just had to sit down and do some introspection. It was having a really hard time and figuring out why. No, as well as done things to improve our ability to look at what we're doing and what the various servers are doing. Rob did that this week, and we'll probably be doing it other weeks, all with the chance to improve performance. With an eye, towards improving performance and my bad accents. Number 6, tech, code cleaning and bugs. So Christina worked on porting resource node deaths and plot control to the scripting system, allowing her to clean up a lot of old code. That's the thing. When you have as much code as we have over the years, some of it just needs to be old code that we're not using, purged with fire. So fire was involved, but fortunately no CPUs were burned in the process. Number 7, work in progress, design class balance. Ben continued to work on class balance to help improve the playtesting experience and to find bugs. Once again, game stuff. We told you we were going to be focusing on it, and well, gee, we have. Number 8, tech ability bugs. So this week, Anthony landed a handful of ability bug fixes, including the issue where invulnerability prevented damage from damage over time statuses. Okay, you guys have been telling us about this for a while, and we've been telling you we were going to get to it, and we got to it. So those who've been using invulnerability to gain an advantage, fixes on the way. Number 9, work in progress, tech, FX, building destruction. Going into review today will be new functionality to add effects to building blocks based on block type through the different damage states. Obviously, hey, more game stuff. Tech, camera. Spidey added new camera tech that improves collision detection to reduce the amount of camera clipping. About time, right? Yeah, I know. We just haven't had a chance to get to it before, but once we put someone on it, hey, it happened pretty quickly. Number 11, tech, item placement, manual aiming. 2 for 2 for Spidey, who added tech allowing placed items, siege items, for example, to face the same direction as the player placing it instead of the default item facing. He also fixed an issue with aiming where the visual aiming arc would not detect players despite the projectile once fired hitting the player you could not target. So this is both a combination of LS stuff and just the convenience of being able to not have to put the down the siege item and then turn it around. Number 12, tech siege engines. Colin made siege engines move dynamically when they become detached from a building as it is destroyed. What does that mean? Well, in simple English, wall falls down, trebuchet falls with it. Simple enough. Not necessarily simple to do, but simple to explain. Number 13, work in progress, tech, projected particles. So this week, Wiley started on projected particles. This is a rendering option that causes particles to stamp onto opaque surfaces like real-world light projector. So we can use this for abilities that would project an image onto the ground to define an area of effects, among other things. So once again, hey, more game stuff. 14, a whole bunch of UI bug fixes made by AJ, A2G, and the interest, there we go, of time. We will not go through them other than AJ did A through G. Number 15, work in progress, art tech, because it is both art and tech, Charlotte. So who the hell is Charlotte? Well, Charlotte is this kind of big girl, very well developed legs, all 8 of them. What she is a high poly, high tri model. High tri, triangles, because tri is the cool word for the developers. But what it means is, if you look at our engine and to the game to date, one of the things that sometimes players have said, and certainly onlookers have said, oh my God, these models are like so 2001. Well, they used to be. They certainly aren't now, or more like 2001. We had always said, though, that the engine, of course, could handle more. But because we want to get 3,000 of them or more on the screen, you really can't use high tri models, simply because your video cards can't render that many. It doesn't matter what card, eventually you hit, a limit. So, a number of weeks ago, I asked the art team if we could create a high poly model that we could put into the game. Enter Charlotte. John had already been working on her. She is a kind of big spidery thing with guns. Obviously, the guns are not appropriate to see you. But she's really appropriate for doing a test. So we've been running tests with Charlotte and her kids, or her, male admirers, much smaller. She doesn't eat them yet. And so far, so good. The real point with Charlotte is eventually she'll make her way into the depths and find a home there. But we're also going to use her for testing stuff, even before the depths with CU and with the engine. Being able to put up a really high definition model So if you look at what we have now, it's about 1/10 the number of tries that we have with Charlotte. And, you start to get up to that number, and you're looking at 75,000. No, that's not right, sorry. 151,000, excuse me, tries. And you're starting to get in like very serious game territory. And we're going to up the count some more as well. It does a few things for us. Certainly it gives you folks something interesting to look at and potentially interact with in a scenario. And it also allows us to push our tech and find issues. I mean, when we first put in Charlotte, we saw some issues in how the engine was dealing with her. And that's good. We want to find them now. So expect to see Charlotte in the game. Expect to, get up close and personal with her. Very friendly gal. Again, she's kind of, she'll be all over you. Enjoy lunch. You'll be the lunch, but, don't give in too easily. Play hard to eat. Anyway, number 16, Art, Siege Engines. This week we finished up creating odds for 2 of the 3 corpse chuckers, and we'll wrap up the 3rd early next week. Number 17, Work, Art, work in progress. Character waiting polish. No, not the stuff you put on your nails, but after updating the Charlotte skeleton, Joe began work cleaning up the rough pass waiting our 2.0 character set. Let me also go back to number 15, back to Charlotte for a moment. I should have called out both, again, John and Mike D for their work on even getting Charlotte into the game, and Joe and others who've been working to animate her, make her, much more interesting, and Scott as well. Mike, will also be doing Mike C will also be doing some effects to make her more interesting. So, team effort, and she's kind of cool. And I think by the time she's all finished, it will she'll look pretty good in the engine. And you folks should have some fun interactions with her. Number 18, last and certainly not least, Concept World Art. We've got a lot of environmental art we're planning to fill the world of CU with. This week we focused on scouring the web for imagery of different types of environments to use them as the basis for what will be the various biomes and areas of Camelot Unchained. So, hey, all that said, let's go to Q&A and half hour, at most. This is a big, Friday. We have an update, we have a newsletter, and we have a test. So my time, I don't have a lot of time to help get all this out.
Give us your questions. And to start us off, we have a very silly one from Halloween. Since I was unable to pull a tail from you last time and I'm not ready to give up on my Arthur's mother was an old cat lady theory, can you tell us if Arthur suffers from a veil-twisted Oedipus complex?
Nice. Nice. Never really thought of it that way. But you never know. Maybe he's just into fur.
Combat Sack asks, can crafters that prefer combat be viable in, say, 6 versus 6 PvP?
So it depends. If you mean 6 crafters versus 6 non-combatants, no, you'll probably die. Though I'm sure there'll be some group of 6 that'll figure something out. Can they be involved? Well, sure. If they're geared more towards combat, depending on how far we go with traps and other things that they can use, they can certainly be viable. It probably wouldn't be the preferred path, but considering what I've seen players do over the decades with classes and races and all that, I certainly I would expect that you folks will find a way to make it interesting, because we'll try to give you the tools to do so.
Swipper asks, hey Mark, I love a good snow zone. Are we going to see one in test in the future?
Yes. When, I don't know, but yeah, I love a good snow zone too. We've had, snow in the game in the past a little bit. We want to definitely put it in the game at some point. There has to be a snow-covered island somewhere, or at least a snow-covered part of an island, hopefully with a volcano that Joe is supposed to fall into.
Bumble asks, you have mentioned a few times in chat and forums that we are allowed to talk publicly about certain tests now, sort of
Yep.
soft NDA drop.
Yep.
Can you expand on what we can and can't talk about
Sure,
now?
happily. So what I've said if you've been in the Cherry Keep tests, the recent ones that I've been in, I always say if a test can be talked about. If I've said that, the only requirement is if you're going to talk about being in the test, that you tell people, hey, it was a beta 1 test, and that we're certainly not a final beta game. What you can talk about, it's up to you. We haven't put any restrictions on that. If you're in the test and you hear me say, yep, good to go, feel free to talk about it. Tell them what was great. You can tell them what's not great. The only thing we say is please no screenshots of videos yet. And again, please do say that it was a beta 1 out of 3 tests. Now, this applies only to the Siege tests that I've been in. We run a lot of tests that are unstable, as you folks know. We were testing things that are broken, and we really don't want those talked about. We also do some tests at times for things that, we don't want to talk about yet, because we haven't talked about them, in updates. So, if you've been in any of the recent Siege tests with me, feel free to talk about it. And it doesn't all have to be good. I mean, we know, we're not a finished product. We're not putting on the restrictions of, you must say good things. Just don't lie. Either way, we don't want people saying, oh my God, this was the most perfect, everything worked beautifully. No, we don't need that. We just want you to tell the truth. If you liked it, fantastic. Talk about it. Be honest. You've seen things, no matter what, that you haven't seen in other games. You've seen the destruction of buildings, real time. Especially a building with 9.4 million blocks created by Trivial. You've seen a lot of NPCs be, start the game 800 or gone up to 14,000. You've seen a lot of really interesting things, and we don't mind talking about them. But we certainly don't want video yet, and please no screenshots. But that's it.
Psychobuzz asks, question, are we looking at a 2020 or 2021 release date? Only asking because it seems like a lot more can be worked. We are halfway through 2019.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we are still consistent in what we've talked about with the launch date. When we're 100% that either we will not make 19, we will be happy to, or unhappily be happy to say that. We've been going through a lot of projections, putting together some dates for our investors. Obviously, we're still hiring, so we're not dead in the water yet. But I have been certainly for the last couple months very very straightforward with you folks, and say certainly every month that goes by where we don't have success after success after success, we don't hire other people, it really hurts. On the other hand, we've made some tremendous progress over the last few months. So certainly in terms of 2021, gosh, that would be an absolute nightmare for me, and for the investors as well, and for the backers. We've brought in some really good people lately. Not that we haven't brought in good people before. We've just been able to bring in, more than one, and hopefully we have some more coming in soon. So we'll see what happens.
Bobo Deok asks, any details on what will be the physical structures of the stabilizers? What kind of buildings, environmental items, etc.?
Well, stabilizer is just, think of essentially something that looks like a pole. Won't be all that exciting, radiates a lot of power, that sort of thing. There's nothing, particularly brilliantly, unique about it, at least not as of now, and that could certainly change. When the art team says, that's crap, let me give you something better, which they, always do. So we'll have to see.
Combat Sack asks, How many different currencies will there be? In other games, there are tokens, tickets, gems, gold. Please, can we have one type of currency to trade with?
Yeah, certainly both in my MUDs and Dark Age and other games as well. You've seen all sorts of variants. We want to keep it simple. Certainly, we're not looking to go, hey, we have 20 different types of currency. That just doesn't work. Well, at least it doesn't work in our game. We haven't decided that yet because, frankly, no matter what, everything comes off essentially one currency, which forms the basis of all the others. So, right now it'll be gold, but who knows? Maybe it could be, Luca Panhands. I mean, whatever we end up using.
Dino asks, is there any info you can give into the Hellbound? It's a little confusing if it's a melee hybrid or a backline mage.
I don't think it's all that confusing, but that's okay. I'll check. Let me check the description and check what's up on the website before I talk about that, because if it is confusing, we should fix it.
Racknock asks, hey Mark, more business-related question. I was curious when you brought in investors to the project, was there interest from Chinese investors, etc.? For example, would this be indicative of interest in a CU China release?
Yeah, so these folks are not Chinese. These investors are most of the same investors who invested in me and Mythic when we went to create Dark Age of Camelot. In terms of China or other countries, yeah, we've had significant interest from a number of other parties. What we have told them to date is that we weren't looking yet for investment from publishers. We weren't looking yet to license CU, and longtime backers know that I've always said that look, we're not desperately going door to door trying to find people to put our game up. I know in the case especially of Asia and particularly China, they've been burned in the past by a lot of Western developers, and not burned in a way of they were trying to screw them over, but the games just weren't as successful or they didn't deliver. And so I know that as a general rule, they tend to want to wait until the game is further along, and that suited us just fine. I expect BGs to be having conversations with a few of them probably by the end of the summer, as we can present to them, just as we can present to you folks, a real slice of Camelot Unchained, from creating a character, to going into scenarios, to going to the home island, to getting progression, crafting, etc. So people can see, okay, this is what it's going to be like. And obviously the scenarios are not meant to and won't be there once we launch, other than as the starter battlegrounds. But it is a slice of what you folks are going to do in the real game. It may be a time limited slice, it may be just a piece of it, but it is meant to be close to the exciting bits of sieges, not the more boring setting up and camping and waiting and doing the things that you'll have to do to have a siege. It will be the, okay, hey, we're all here, we've got what we need, and let's blow the heck out of this place, or get ourselves blown up. So at that point, I think there'll be a hell of a lot of interest in CU, whether it's for China, who knows, but if nothing else, certainly the tech and the underlying game could be localized, for various markets. Certainly, rather famous Chinese period revolved around Three Kingdoms. So, we'll see.
Dizzy Stream asks, have you guys given thought to balancing structures' defensive and aesthetic properties, such as a set amount of visual block counts for ornate qualities? Once meta structures are developed, it seems like there could be a tendency for creativity to take a back seat to efficiency.
Well, certainly people are going to want to be efficient in their building. We've talked about block counts. Obviously, there's cost to blocks, time to build, all that. And at the end of the day, if you're building in places where you can be attacked, yeah, kind of efficiency and defensive capabilities are always going to trump aesthetics. In other areas, aesthetics will probably count more. You'll want to be prettier, and you're not going to worry about getting blown up because, hey, maybe you're on the safe island in some of the building areas, or you're in areas that you consider safe as opposed to the frontier areas. And so, the beauty, in theory at least, of the system is that you can build both. If you are more concerned with having something that looks good, you'll build differently than you are if you want something that can survive an onslaught. And, Travail's Keep is a perfect example of that. You've got in Travail's Keep this amazing structure with all these blocks, but it's quite vulnerable to attack. And once you get into, for example, once you get through the main wall on the left side of the keep, you're into the courtyard. And if you were designing that to resist a siege, you would do other things. So, I think players are going to have a very interesting choice to make in terms of building. We certainly do want to be able to create something that looks good aesthetically. But at the end of the day, the key is, of course, something that can stand up to all the various things that are going to be launched at buildings, including Donnie.
Lodoween asks, will crafters who spend a large amount of time in RVR using those skills hit a lower ceiling on their crafting or building skills?
Let me be sure about this. In theory, no. But I'll need to think about that a little more. And the reason being is we've always talked about soft caps, right? And so combatants have a soft cap with their abilities. The question is, because crafters will have both combat abilities and crafting abilities, will we soft cap them separately? My gut is yes, but since we haven't designed the class yet, I don't know. But, sorry, lunch. And a lot of talking. But I believe yes. I believe that we will end up having different soft caps for crafters on their combat abilities and their crafting abilities.
And a related question from Psychobuzz. Will all crafting professions be able to be maxed on one single character?
Oh, God, no. Impossible. Not a chance. We've said from the beginning, and this applies to combatants as well, is that you have choices to make. So you could not max every ability, every stat if you wanted to. It's just not going to be possible. And I mean code-wise, it won't be possible. It won't be because we've made it so grindy that you can't. It just won't be possible.
Drooged asks, what is the status of adding sub-components and more recipes to crafting? There was talk not long ago of this expanding soon.
Yeah, I need to get to that. It's a short week for us. Oh, yeah, I have to announce that as well. Next week, but I'll get... I'll be talking about crafting after that. Sorry, guys. Late launch.
Bobo Deok is asking about if you've heard about or looked at Orion from another game company, and if it could help in CU in combination with your already awesome engine.
I have Orion, like Orion?
Like the constellation.
I have no idea what that is. Well done, Bobo. I have no idea. No idea. Orion.
Combat Sack asks, what are a couple of things regarding CU that are currently keeping you awake at night?
Right now, not a lot. I mean, honestly. As I think I said this a couple weeks ago, building destruction was. That's always, has always been one of the things that I've worried about, and worried about whether we'd be able to pull it off, because it's hard. No one else has done it the way we do it. So that, no longer is. I guess the thing that's keeping me awake most with CU would be delivery date. when we can really do this. So, Sunday nights usually don't sleep well. That's one of the big reasons, is just worrying about, hey, when are we going to get this game out? The good news is that obviously you've seen the progress. You all have seen the progress we've been making certainly this year, especially over the last few months. And, we're really, really close to having that game loop. And that's what we have been waiting for.
Stargazer 1820 asks, what level of graphic quality do you target? For example, world detail level and quality same as Ark?
So, when we announced the Kickstarter, we said that we were going to be willing to sacrifice graphic fidelity for performance. Over the years, no other way to say it. Over the years, as we've been delayed, the advantage is tech hasn't. So we've been able to step up the look of the game. We will absolutely continue to push it. We are always looking to bring in a new, rendering guy to work with George and Andrew on improving the look. We're always looking to just push the envelope in general to see just how far we can go with this game as in its not only its appearance, but what we can, if we can go in slightly different directions with appearance, and it's hard to explain what I mean without talking about things which I just don't have the time to talk about right now, other than to say you can expect this game to look a lot better than we said it would back in 2013, and not just because tech has improved. The engine has really worked out very well. Our incredible work on multi-threading and concurrency has given us a lot more power than I thought even back then we would have. And I know with guys like George and Andrew, they are always thinking about what we can do to make the game look better. Andrew and I actually been talking about that a lot over the last 2 days.
Oh Bumble asks, will players be able to hire tons of NPC guards for their buildings, similar to the numbers we see in Point Capture or Cherry Keep?
Well, in Cherry Keep I went up to 14,000, so I can tell you it won't be that. You'll certainly be able to hire a number of guards. What the number is will be determined. But since you've seen our what the engine's capable of, whether it's in the terms of our arcs or bots or even NPCs, yeah, you'll be able to hire enough guards, to protect your keep. So that's at this point, it's relatively easy. By the time we launch, it'll be quite easy.
Combat Sack asks, has scope creep been an issue? How easy is it to fall in that hole?
Oh, it's really easy, and we haven't, not once, at least not that I'm aware of. So one of the things that I am very proud of, I always talk about how proud I am of the team, which I am. I am also certainly in this point, I'm very proud of myself. I have always resisted the temptation when it comes to CU to add more and more scope. I certainly have not advocated going down the path that other games have gone down in terms of adding more and more scope, looking for greater and greater donations. And I'm not, just so anyone, as we're clear, I'm not saying I am not looking at Star Citizen when I say this. It's a natural thing to do. I mean, a lot of games do it. We're not doing it. We've not done it yet. If anything, we'd say we do the opposite, where we've, made changes to the body part system. I think we can be very proud as a team of what we've done so far. And on this, I am very proud of myself because, I could add scope forever. Boy, it would be easy. And boy, would it be easy to sell stuff. But we don't. We said we wanted to make a certain game. That's still our intent to make that game, and the extender packs. That's what New Scope is for. Like I said, it would be easy to do, especially with our backers. Not because our backers are suckers, because they're not. You folks are very dedicated. You believe in what we're doing, and if I wanted to try to talk some of you folks into it, I probably could. But I don't want to do it. That's crap. We committed to make a certain game, and even if it takes longer than we thought, we're still committed to make that game. And so, no, scope creep, not a problem at all. And it won't be either. I mean, that's not changing.
Bluefire75 asks, can I use my Oculus for CU?
Yes, actually. It won't be a good experience, but because the control scheme isn't there. But if you wanted to in the tests, you could actually use a Rift. I do. I can't play the game really, but you can walk around. Again, it is not optimal by any stretch of the imagination. It's very much a tech demo. We wanted to hook up the engine to VR, which we did. And you can walk around. You can see what's going on around you. But it's not, you can't do anything else. You literally can walk and hopefully not die. If we had time and maybe another engineer, it wouldn't take much to give you, more functionality, but we just don't have the time. But the engine itself, yeah, easy peasy for us. People were in the Cherry Keep test as well as in one of the ARC tests, if I remember correctly, and they were blown away that they could actually see that real time in in a Rift. And certainly in the Castle Siege test, which has a much lower number of blocks and thus a higher frame rate, the Rift would probably walk around quite nicely and see things. I'll test that this weekend as a member. If I can come in on here tomorrow, I'll give it a look-see and see what that battle looks like. I was one of the guys who did it during the Castle Siege, and that was kind of cool.
Tarikaman asks, which beta phase can we expect launch classes to get more fleshed out?
Beta 1? I mean, that's the whole point. We want to do a lot more with the classes now. Beta 1 is supposed to be long. So we wanted it and knew it was going to be long. It's been longer than we thought because we haven't gotten, as I said in the MOP interview last week, because we didn't get as much done as quickly with the ability system as we hoped. But yeah, no, a lot more coming for Beta 1. A lot more coming. 5 minutes, guys.
5-minute warning. And I just put in the chat, mop is massivelyop.com. For those of you who don't know. All right. Well, here's an interesting question from Real Life Gabo. I've asked Ben and Andrew this before, but not you. What was the most challenging thing, and what was the thing you are most happy about you have ever made or designed?
Oh my God, Jesus! Boy, oh boy, what am I most happy about? So many things. Different stages of my career have. Yeah, this is gonna be a long one. So at different stages of my career, I've been proud of different things. Back in the 80s, when I made my first mod, Aradeath, which later became Dragon's Gate, I was very proud that I was able, on, I think it was a 386, a 286, I don't remember at this point, it was so long ago, using the Unix operating system, I was able to write a MUD that blew away the other MUDs that were out there on the basis of how many people could play in the mud and how the muds just played. They weren't. My mud wasn't necessarily better subjectively, than Richard and Roy's great mud, or even the Scepter of Goth. It was just different. And certainly, the one thing I know I did really well with that game was the number of players I could have, in a room, which was, it was the old days, but it was a pretty big deal. So that one pushed me as a programmer. It wasn't like I could find a book on how to do it, and I just was, I had to dive deep into the Unix, operating systems bowels to find some things and try some things that apparently the other company at the time was into play, not the big into play, another into play. They were also using Unix, and they apparently couldn't do what I did. So I thought that was kind of clever of me, and it involved message passing and pointers and all sorts of fun engineering stuff. So that was time slicing. So that was all kind of cool. In Mythic, I mean, the obvious is just the name and the idea of Dark Age. That I am certainly the most proud of. I loved pretty much every game we did. Like to love. I mean, some I loved more than others. But I think my proudest was coming up with the concept for Dark Age of Camelot. You can't, you really can't argue that of all the achievements that we made as a company, and Mythic made a lot, that Dark Age wasn't, our biggest success, because of course it was. Even though Warhammer was a great game, Dark Age meant more to the industry at the time than Warhammer did. Again, great game, but Dark Age was, one of those, some ways, genre-defining games, not because of its sub-numbers, but because of our VR. So I think I'm most proud of coming up with the concept for it and the name for it. The concept itself I thought was cool, but I did enjoy the name. In CSE, what am I most proud of right now? That's tough. I think we've got a lot of interesting things that could work out really, really well. So get back to me in a few months after, see how some of the ideas work out, so I can talk about what I'm most proud. Yeah.
John
Perfect.
Just jumped in to say hiring John.
Hiring John. Well, that certainly was one of the smarter hiring moves I've made. But I can't even say that, quite frankly, because we have such a great team. I was talking to one of the engineers just the other night, as a matter of fact, last night, and he had just mentioned that he had a follow-up from the recruiter, and who brought him into to our attention, and he told me how highly he thought of the team, and how much he loved being here, and I think that's one of the best things you can say about some of the decisions Andrew and I have made about the studio. We have a great bunch of guys and gals. I mean, that is really that simple. And I'm very, very proud of that. Extremely proud of that. We have the kind of studio where I can tell people with a straight face and know that it's the truth, which is a nice thing, that we are like a family. Now, sometimes families can be dysfunctional, and we have our moments, because we all do, because we're human. But overall, we just have a great studio full of great people, and that makes me really proud. The technical achievements are one thing, and I am terribly proud of those. Doing things that other studios can't do is always a great thing, but I just love being able to enjoy coming to work every day, to be surrounded with people here in Virginia, but also the people in Seattle. George is heading up a great crew, and as both expand, We want to continue adding the kind of, high caliber person and not just the high caliber employee. And that's pretty much how we work. We only want people who are really good people. We we don't like a lot of drama. I'm not a big fan of that. So the stuff that happens in other studios just doesn't happen here, because we don't, you know, one, I tell people in the interview just how much we hate prima donnas, and we won't put up with it, even with me or Andrew. Again, we're all human. We all make mistakes, but I can say without any fear of contradiction that just like old Mythic, this is a great team. And by the way, I don't mean newer Mythic wasn't. It was also a great team. It was just a whole different story because we went, from 20, well, we were 13, I think, when we started Dark Age, 12 or 13, up to 23, and then we went up bigger. But it's very different when you go, up to 100 people or 200 people or 300 as Mythic was. You can't say you know everyone, so it's not a question of whether they were good or bad or not. You can't know everyone. So, but I do know everyone here, just as I knew everyone at Old Mythic, and we had a great bunch of guys and gals then. We have a great bunch of guys and gals now, and so I'm very, very proud of that. And that was an incredibly nice thing for him to say. So on that, we have the perfect ending, Mr. Porter. So, folks, testing this weekend. As far as I know, we will be looking at another castle siege. So come on in. Get in a ram. Get in a trebuchet or get on a trebuchet. Help blow up a building that's not the Cherry Keep. A keep that is closer to what you would see in the game from players. The Cherry Keep, obviously, is this amazing building, but it's an amazingly huge building, and that your average player would not be able to build. That is certainly much closer to a guild type structure versus an individual structure. So come on in, check it out. Play with some of the improved abilities. Play with the Rams. Even though they are a first and very work in progress, you can see that they're working. And you can work together with other players to move them. They'll be animated soon properly, so they won't just string, along without wheels moving. But okay, it's first pass. We told you guys and gals that. But as always, we like to get you folks in early, see what's going on. And that's one of the beauties of, how we do things here. Yes, we've taken longer. But, we get you folks in as often as we can during the week, some weekends, and you see it. To quote many of people, and of course, one of my favorite, shows, Hamilton, see how the sausage is made. And you folks get to see it. ITs get to see it on Hatchery every single day, other than the weekends, of course. Though we leave it up so people can see it. So, come join us for some sausage making. See the Rams in progress. And hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow. Though I have an afternoon thing I have to do here as well. So I guess I have to be in here. Okay, so I will definitely see some of you tomorrow. If I come in here early, maybe I'll stream as well. So that's it. And as always, folks, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your patience. I'll see you in, hopefully some of you, in the game on Saturday. Be safe. Have a fun weekend. And we will be closed next Friday. Next Friday is July 5th. Obviously, July 4th is a holiday. And because a whole bunch of people want the time off, I said, oh, what the hell, let's give everyone the extra day off because we have a busy summer in front of us. And so giving the team an extra day, to relax before, the heat of July sets in. And the heat of what we're going to be doing, takes over. extra day probably is a good idea. So for those who celebrate July 4th, hey, go USA. For those who are still pissed at us for us getting our independence, hey, sorry, we still love you. And well, we do. We just needed some distance, right? A little more distance. Relationship was a little bit too close.
You become a teenager. You move out of the house.
Exactly, you move out of the house. Parent was a little
rebellious phase.
Exactly, parent was a little too clingy, and it's like, okay, we got to be on our own. But happy July 4th to those that celebrate it, and as well, for those who are off, enjoy your time off. And I will see you certainly when we get back. So, see ya. Have a good weekend.
See you later.